I'll preface this by saying I'm not typically one for tales of the supernatural or unexplained. As a writer of historical fiction, I tend to deal in facts, extensive research, and gritty realism grounded in the past. But the events I'm about to recount, well, they defy rational explanation. I suppose I should provide some context first. I'm a novelist in my late 40s, moderately successful in my field with a handful of decent sellers under my belt over the past decade. But it had been quite some time since my last published work, a fictionalized account of the Anglo-Zulu War that received lukewarm reviews and underwhelming sales. Writer's block and procrastination became a debilitating cycle. My passion and creativity stunted. With dwindling funds, I found myself growing increasingly reclusive in the small Brooklyn apartment I called home. My waking hours were consumed by bouts of frenzied writing, penning ideas and plot outlines only to crumble up the pages in frustration at my inability to make any meaningful progress. I'd walk away, pour myself a stiff drink, and the process would repeat itself ad nauseum. Then, one gray morning, I awoke to the sound of heavy rainfall pattering against the windows. Rubbing the grogginess from my eyes, I shuffled to the kitchen and brewed a strong pot of Colombian dark roast, my fuel for the day ahead. With a steaming mug in hand, I settled into the creaky desk chair and opened my laptop. The bright screen's glow violating the dreary dimness of the room. My latest work-in-progress document was open from the previous night, only a few measly paragraphs of subpar historical fiction staring back at me. I grimaced, took another gulp of coffee and began typing, hoping this would be the day I break through the block and make some actual progress. But the words wouldn't come. No matter how I racked my brain, I couldn't craft a single coherent sentence to further the narrative. An anguished sigh escaped my lips as I slumped in defeat, pinching the bridge of my nose in exasperation. It was then that a peculiar document name on my desktop caught my eye that hasn't been there the day before. I furrowed my brow, perplexed as I stared down the display as if it was a bratty child sitting right in front of me. The End Doc. Curiosity overwhelmed my better judgment though, and I found myself double-clicking the file, my heart racing with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. The document opened, revealing a cascade of words that seemed to leap from the screen, their implications sending a chill down my spine. It wasn't a short story or a novel excerpt, but rather a chronological collection of diary-style entries detailing my entire life. Scribbled paragraphs recounting childhood memories, awkward adolescent experiences, and private musings I hadn't reflected upon in decades. But it was unmistakably about me. The intimate details, the vivid imagery. It could be only my own life unfurling in text before my disbelieving eyes. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the document, and while I delved deeper into the diary, I found myself transported to pivotal moments from my past, reliving the joys and sorrows that had shaped the tapestry of my existence. It was as if someone had pried open the vault of my consciousness, pilfering its contents and weaving them into a haunting narrative. The early entries were almost whimsical, capturing the wide-eyed innocence of childhood with a poignancy that stirred long, dormant echoes within my soul. August 15th, 1986. Today I caught my first glimpse of the ocean, the vastness of it all, The endless expanse of blue that seemed to stretch towards the horizon left me breathless. In that moment, I understood the true meaning of infinity, a concept that had previously eluded me. I found myself smiling wistfully, the memories rushing back in vivid detail, the scent of salt air, the warmth of the sun-kissed sand beneath my feet. It was as if I had been transported back in time, a willing prisoner of my own recollections. I knew there was no way I could have written this entry back then, but rationality made room for nostalgia. As I continued reading, the entries took a darker tone, reflecting the turbulence of adolescence and the harsh realities that steadily eroded my youthful idealism. June 3rd, 1992. Dad's drinking has gotten worse. Mom tries to hide it, but I can see the fear in her eyes, the resignation that this is our new normal. The arguments are becoming more frequent, more volatile. Last night, I heard the shattering of glass against the wall, followed by a deafening silence that spoke volumes. I swallowed hard, the familiar ache of those memories resurfacing like a phantom pain. The words cut deep, laying bare the wounds that time had never fully healed. Yet I found myself inexorably drawn to the next entry, my morbid fascination overriding the voice of reason that urged me to abandon this unsettling journey. With the pages turning, I bore witness to the triumphs and tribulations that had defined my adult life. The exhilaration of my first publishing deal, the bitter sting of heartbreak, the euphoria of newfound success, and the slow, agonizing descent into obscurity as my star faded. Each entry was a visceral snapshot, a raw, unflinching portrayal of the emotions that had consumed me during those pivotal moments. It was as if the author of this bizarre manuscript had been a silent observer, privy to my innermost thoughts and feelings, documenting them with a precision that bordered on things that shouldn't be possible. Then, as I neared the end of the document, a chilling realization dawned upon me. The entries had begun to chronicle events that had not yet transpired. The dates were mere days, sometimes hours in the future, and the level of detail was nothing short of extraordinary. March 16th, 2024. The words continue to elude me, each sentence a Herculean endeavor. The caffeine courses through my veins, a poor substance for the creative spark that has abandoned me. I can feel the walls closing in, the weight of my failures bearing down upon me like a suffocating shroud. If this persists, I fear the consequences will be dire. My heart pounded in my chest as I read those words, for they perfectly captured the desperation and anguish I had grappled with moments ago. But how could this be possible? How could the author have foreseen my thoughts and emotions with such uncanny accuracy? I scrolled further, but dread coiled in the pit of my stomach. The next entry date was a mere 24 hours away. March 17th, 2024. Mother's condition has taken a turn for the worst. The doctors have given her days, perhaps hours, to live. I can scarcely fathom the idea of a world without her warmth, her guidance. She has been the unwavering constant in my life, a beacon of love and support through even the darkest of storms. The thought of her light being extinguished fills me with a terror I cannot begin to describe. I slammed my laptop shut, my breath coming in ragged gasps. This was madness, a cruel jest perpetrated by forces beyond my comprehension. My mother was in perfect health, her spirit as vibrant and indomitable as it ever has been. And yet, a tendril of doubt has taken root, an insidious whisper that perhaps, just perhaps, there was truth to the words that had sent my world tilting on its axis. I pushed away from the desk, my legs trembling as I rose to my feet. Stumbling to the kitchen, I poured myself a generous measure of scotch, the amber liquid, a meager balm for the maelstrom of emotions that threatened to consume me. As the fiery liquid burned its way down my throat, I resolved to put this unsettling manuscript out of my mind. It was a mere curiosity, a bizarre glitch in the digital ether, nothing more. Tomorrow would dawn like any other day, and the words inscribed upon those pages would prove to be nothing more than the ramblings of a deranged mind. Yet, as day and night wore on, I found myself unable to shake the feeling that a dark storm was gathering on the horizon, and that the ominous portents contained within this document were but the first droplets of a deluge that would forever alter the course of my existence. Eventually, the morning light filtered through the curtains the next day, casting a pale glow upon the room that seemed to mock the turmoil raging within me. I had tossed and turned throughout the night, my restless slumber punctuated by vivid dreams that blurred the lines between reality and the haunting words etched into the pages of my biography. I rose from the tangled sheets and my muscles protested, weighed down by a bone-deep weariness that went beyond mere physical fatigue. It was as though the mere act of existence had become an insurmountable burden, a cross to bear that grew heavier with each passing moment. I just wanted to make it through today so I can safely say that this file on my laptop was nothing but a mere joke. I shuffled into the kitchen, the familiar motions of preparing my morning coffee providing a fleeting semblance of normalcy amidst the maelstrom of uncertainty that threatened to consume me. The rich aroma filled the air, its comforting familiarity, a tether to the world I had once known, a world unburdened by the existential dread that now permeated every fiber of my being. As I sipped the steaming liquid, my gaze was drawn inexorably towards the laptop, its innocuous presence belying the sinister secrets it harbored. A part of me yearned to cast the accursed device aside, to purge its corrupted contents from my life and reclaim the blissful ignorance that had once been my shield against the harsh realities of existence. But another part, a darker, more insidious voice whispered seductively in my ear, urging me to delve deeper into the twisted narrative that had been laid bare before me. Perhaps it reasoned the answers I sought could be found within those digital pages, a means of unraveling the mystery that had ensnared me in its tangled web. With trembling fingers, I lifted the laptop's lid, the screen flickering to life with a muted hum. The document was there, its ominous title seeming to pulse with malevolent intent. I hesitated, my resolve wavering in the face of the unknown terrors that might await me within its confines. Then, like a moth drawn to the flame, I found myself navigating to another entry dated for today, my heart pounding in my chest as I braced myself for the revelation that would forever shatter the delicate illusion of normalcy I had clung to. March 16th, 2024. The world had been stripped of its color, its vibrance leached away by the specter of loss that now haunts my every waking moment. Mother's light has been extinguished, her warmth and guidance torn from my grasp in a cruel twist of fate that defies comprehension. The tears have long since ceased, replaced by a hollowness that threatens to consume me from within. I recoiled from the screen, the words searing themselves into my psyche like brands of white-hot iron. It couldn't be true, I told myself, even as a tremor of dread coursed through my veins. Surely this was nothing more than an elaborate fiction, a twisted tale conjured by a depraved mind. But even as the denial took root, the shrill thrill of my phone pierced the oppressive silence, shattering the fragile veil of disbelief I had woven around myself. With leaden fingers I answered the call, my heart plummeting as the tremulous voice of my sister greeted me from the other end of the line.
She's gone,
she whispered, the words laden with a grief that transcended mere syllables.
Mom's gone.
In that moment, the world seemed to tilt on its axis, the ground shifting beneath my feet as the reality I had clung to crumbled to dust. The diary had foretold this, had laid bare the shattering loss that now rent my soul asunder, and yet I found myself utterly unprepared for the onslaught of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. The following days blurred together in a haze of grief and disbelief, each moment a cruel reminder of the void that had been carved into my existence. I moved through the motions of mourning like a specter, my spirit adrift in a sea of sorrow that knew no bounds. Yet, even as I grappled with the aftermath of my mother's passing, a darker specter loomed on the horizon, its shadow cast by the ominous words that lingered within the digital tomb that had foretold this tragedy. I couldn't stop reading, though I probably should. Immediately. March 20, 2024. The emptiness is all-consuming, a void that threatens to swallow me whole. The words, once my allies, now mock me in their silence. Their refusal to offer solace in the face of this profound loss. I fear what lurks on the horizon, the next chapter in this twisted narrative that has upended my existence. If the patterns hold true, the coming days will bring a reckoning, a culmination of events that will shatter what remains of my fragile sanity. The passage chilled me to the core, its prophetic undertones resonating with a clarity that defied rational explanation. I knew, deep within the recesses of my soul, that the trials I had endured thus far were but a prelude to a greater horror, a reckoning that would test the very limits of my resolve. April 1st. 2024. The walls are closing in, their oppressive embrace suffocating me with each ragged breath. The visions, once fleeting phantoms, now linger in the periphery of my sight, taunting me with their presence. I fear I am teetering on the precipice of oblivion, my tenuous grip on reality slipping with each passing moment. I neared the end of the document. Cold dread settled over me. the weight of the words bearing down upon me like a shroud of inevitability. I knew with a certainty that transcended mere speculation that the final chapter of this twisted saga would soon be upon me. As I turned to the last entry, its date a mere handful of days away, I could feel the threads of my sanity unraveling, the abyss of madness yawning before me, hungry and insatiable. Only then I really started to understand why the document didn't have any more pages, despite me not even being in my 50s yet. April 7th, 2024. The path before me is clear. A twisted road paved with the shattered remains of my former self. There is but one course of action, one final denouement to this tale of woe and desperation. This life, which once held such promise, has betrayed me in the most profound way imaginable. I go now to seek solace in the eternal embrace of oblivion, where the torments of existence can no longer touch me. I need this madness to stop. Please, stop. The words seemed to blur before my eyes, their implication a lead weight that threatened to drag me into the fathomless depths of despair. The finality of that last entry, the resignation to an inescapable fate, sent tremors of dread coursing through my very being. I slammed my laptop shut, as though the mere act of obscuring the digital harbinger of doom could somehow shield me from the terrors it had foretold. My breath came in ragged gasps, each inhalation a desperate bid to stave off the rising tide of panic that threatened to overwhelm me. Staggering to my feet, I paced the confines of my apartment, my mind a whirlwind of fractured thoughts and half-formed plans. Surely there had to be a way to evade the grim prophecy that had been laid before me. Perhaps I could flee, disappear into the ether, and reforge my existence in some remote corner of the world, far from the insidious tendrils of this twisted narrative. Yet, even as the notion took root, a gnawing doubt festered within me. How could one outrun the inexorable march of fate? The diary had proven itself to be an oracle of unsettling accuracy, past and future. Its words a harbinger of the tragedies that had already come to pass. There could be no escape, no reprieve from the inexorable march towards denouement that had been foretold within those accursed pages. I was but a mere player upon the stage, my lines and actions predetermined by the unseen hand of fate, or perhaps some darker, more malevolent force that delighted in the unraveling of my sanity. With a feverish intensity, I began to record what you are listening to now, the words spilling forth a torrent of anguish and desperation. This would be my magnum opus, my final masterpiece, a chronicle of the descent into oblivion that awaited me, a testament to the frailty of the human condition and the inescapable pull of fate. Dear listener, I am scared. How could I possibly outrun my own suicide when these emotions eating me away make so much sense? For what else could a storyteller do when confronted with the ultimate narrative? the tale of their own undoing. Hey guys, I wanted to include a little segment at the end of the video where I share my thoughts about the story, and I was thinking I can start doing this more for my other stories as well that I do in the future, so that I can maybe build kind of a personal connection with the videos and with the stories as well, and you guys get to have an idea of what I think of the story, and you can also share your thoughts of the story in the description based off of my opinion as well. For this story in particular, I found it incredibly interesting. It was definitely a challenging story to read as well. There was a lot of words that I genuinely didn't know. I didn't even know one of these. It was a word here that I didn't even know existed. It was ad nauseum. I've never heard that word in my life, but it means something that is repetitive, something that has happened a lot and you're kind of tired of it at that point. Let me look up the definition. It is used to refer to the fact that something has been done or repeated so often that it has become annoying or tiresome. And I've never heard that word in my life. The writer of this story is an incredibly talented artist, and it's so interesting to me because this writer isn't even a native speaker, which is so impressive because some native speakers doesn't even have a vocabulary this extensive, including myself. I love how the character starts to develop throughout the story, going through the stages of grief, the denial, and then all of a sudden the acceptance of the prophecies that was foretold in this memoir of his life, basically, that was given to him. And in the end of the story, I really loved the usage of that line. For what else could a storyteller do when confronted with the ultimate narrative, the tale of their own undoing? That line is so powerful, especially for the ending of the story. And all in all, this story was very well written and a pleasure to read. Thank you to the writer for giving me permission to narrate this story. I will link in the description to the writer's Reddit page and the official page where the story was posted to, and if there's any other links to his socials that he gave me to credit him to, then you'll find them down below. And yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed.